Welcome, everyone. My name is Adriana Burnell. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Manager of Casita Coalition, and I'm thrilled to kick off Starter Homes Stronger Communities, the October edition of Casita Coalition's 2025 webinar series. We'd like to give a big thank you to Arnold Ventures for their sponsorship of our webinar series. For those of you who are new to us, Casita Coalition is a 501c3 nonprofit laser-focused on building stronger, more resilient communities by championing diverse, attainable housing options. We bring together a powerful network of homeowners, practitioners, and policymakers across the country to remove barriers and unlock the full potential of middle housing. Through narrative change, systems reform, technical assistance, capacity building, and smart policy, we're pushing the housing conversation forward and getting results. Now, a little housekeeping before we begin. You'll find bios for all of today's incredible speakers and panelists posted as a link in the chat. And to keep things running smoothly, please drop your questions in the Q&A box, not the chat, and we'll tackle them during the audience Q&A session at the end. Today's session centers on starter homes, a critical housing type that is significantly underproduced in the housing market. Starter homes allow new homeowners to enter homeownership and start building equity. They also allow elders to downsize and stay in their community, freeing up larger homes for families. The absence of attainable starter homes has negative impacts on the economic vitality of our communities and our families, as well as on the rental market. As people are forced to delay or forego homeownership, this creates additional pressure on the supply of rentals. We'll hear more about why starter homes are so essential and about the challenges to getting them built. But our focus today is on the success stories, exciting projects from around California and elsewhere in the country that have found innovative pathways to restoring starter homes to our communities. We're very pleased to open the floor for our three presenters, who will share their expertise on starter homes and their on-the-ground experience building starter homes. We have Charlie Gardner, Senior Research Fellow at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University, Eric Wolverton, Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity Northern Arizona in Flagstaff, and Jesse Ibarra, Chief Business Officer at Neighborhood Partnership Housing Services, Inc., also known as NPHS. Our Q&A session will be moderated by Adam Briones, Casita Coalition Board Member and Director of the Housing Security Initiative at Sobrato Philanthropies. We're excited to learn from their experience and to inspire you to reignite starter homes in your community. With that, let's get started. I'm handing it off to Charlie, who will kick us off.
All right. Thank you, Adriana, and thank you to the Casita Coalition for having me here to talk a little bit about starter homes from an introductory perspective. Since it's the focus of our conversation today, the set of slides I prepared here is by way of introduction, what I'm calling starter home under the microscope, sort of unpacking what the term starter home means, and then proceeding to delve into some of the numbers as well as giving you some examples of where starter homes, what I would consider starter homes, are actually being built today. Fortunately, they haven't gone extinct, but they're a little bit harder to find nowadays than we might hope. Anyways, I'm Charlie Gardner, I'm a senior research fellow at the Mercatus Center. We have an urbanity team that studies housing and land use. And again, if you have any questions about this, I think my contact information is included in the presentation. Feel free to reach out to me. But we can go ahead and get started, moving on to the next slide. Okay. So since the conversation is centered around the starter home, I figured I would try to at least define what we mean by that. What is a starter home? You don't have to take these definitions as gospel. These are sort of ones that I came up with. Yours may differ, but I think these sort of represent a consensus view among what people think of. First, I think in quantitative, defining it in terms of what people can afford. If it's a home that a younger first-time home buyer with a typical income can afford, regardless of the size of that home, we might consider that a starter home that would qualify. Alternatively, there's a qualitative definition, which seems to be the conventional definition. You know it when you see it. A starter home is one of those typical ranch homes built in the immediate post-war period, typically around 1,000 square feet. Three bedrooms, one bath, intended for younger families with maybe a child or two. Maybe that definition is adjusted a little bit, but that when people refer to them, that seems to be a general physical definition that people have in mind. Although, as we'll see in the following slides, that's not necessarily the form that they all take these days. So we can move on to the next slide. Okay. So this is just going off current real estate listings to give a sense of how, according to these definitions, how common starter homes actually are. So the 510,000 homes built between 2010 and 2025, again, focusing on newer homes, not much older homes that may need a lot of work, actual production of newer starter homes. Only 133,000 are listed for less than 350,000 and 33 for less than 250,000. Those are the rough contours of the numbers that I came up for roughly a 30-year-old making median income who's able to put down a reasonable down payment, what they might realistically be able to afford. Only 80,000 of those are less than 1,500 square feet. So we remember some of the starter homes in the post-war era were only 800 square feet, sometimes a little larger. And only 54,000 are built on lots less than 5,000 square feet, which is a typical urban lot. So really a small minority of the newer homes that have been built over the last 15 years fall into these categories. I'll try to find some examples here of what those that are being built do look like. So if you could advance the slide, Adriana. Okay. So manufactured homes, not typically considered in the past as a starter home option, but actually very much within that price range. I just have a couple of examples here showing a single wide and a double wide, one from Oklahoma and one from Florida. Although you may not own the land underneath the home, often these are with land leases. These are still being produced, manufactured homes up to HUD code that are less than $200,000. The primary problem is in many states, there are virtually no areas where it is legal to site these homes. Some states, mobile home parks are virtually impossible to start anew. Other places, very difficult. And typically in single family districts, manufactured homes may be prohibited altogether by local zoning. Nonetheless, these are still being built, and there's an interesting range in quality. Some of these are very small, up to actually fairly elaborate homes. This is 1,200 square feet on the right, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. You can see the interior pictures. It's quite a nice house. So that's one option that is still out there. We can advance to the next one, please. So tiny homes have been talked a lot recently. Really, this category is created because they fall under some of the federal regulatory guidelines for full-scale manufactured homes. So these are often found to be just under 400 square feet. You see the one on the left in Arizona is 399 square feet. However, certain areas are beginning to accept these, introduce these into their zoning codes. Again, more expensive in terms of per square footage than some of the manufactured homes, but still what I would consider a very reasonable price for a very, nonetheless, a very modest home. And again, these are essentially manufactured homes, but I think that the tiny home rebranding is sort of more of it's been portrayed somehow as more of a lifestyle rather than a last choice option, and often seem to have more architectural flourishes that you could incorporate in manufactured homes, but often aren't. We can advance to the next one. Okay, so I think this is more in the category of what we would think of when we consider the traditional starter home, which is a modest single-family dwelling. In most of the country, homes in this price range and of this size are almost impossible to find. The one area where they're still flourishing is South Texas, particularly around San Antonio and other parts of the Rio Grande Valley, where we see homes of about 1,000 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, still being built today for less than $200,000. So that's actually easily within the budget of most buyers, even in their 20s. And you can see that part of the reason they've been able to build them at this price point is very small lots. One of these is 2,600 square feet, no garage, just a parking pad. You save the cost of the entire garage, just eliminate it, which also has some aesthetic benefits. and they're built on slabs. So these are very economically built homes. Goes to show you that it is possible to build these in the United States today under certain circumstances. It is feasible. These are listed as of right now in Southern Texas. So we can keep going. These simple duplexes, also, there's been a lot of emphasis on missing middle, not so much on ownership options of missing middle. But here are just a couple examples from Indiana and Kentucky, sub $200,000 homes, again, of about 1,000 square feet, actually quite nice new homes dealing with costs in the same way, sort of appear to be built on slabs or small foundations, no garages, and with the savings from attached housing. But again, typically not legal in most single-family neighborhoods. There are simply not as many of these on the market, nearly as many of these as there might be. Can advance to the next one. Townhouses, these are some from the upper Midwest. Actually, one is from Edmonton, which is kind of a remarkable infill success story in terms of keeping prices down in a fast-growing city. Townhouse available for sale, whether it's condos or fee simple. Also on the smaller side, also I'd consider these starter homes if you look at the physical criteria and the cost as well, still under $350,000, showing that this can be done if you economize on space and infrastructure. And move on to the next one. Condominiums, they have fallen out of favor somewhat in construction over the last 10 or 15 years for various reasons. Some people have blamed this on defect litigation. I personally don't think that's the whole story. There's other reasons to it, but nonetheless, they are still being built in some places. Even in Denver, which is a fairly expensive market, you can still purchase one for just coming in under $350,000. These are relatively low rise, low cost construction, um, ownership options for apartments stacked on top of one another. And keep moving. Okay. So those are a few examples. There are some others that are coming into vogue, which I think that just don't have enough examples to show here. For example, for sale ADUs, which Casita Coalition is involved in. But what are some of the major obstacles, the overarching obstacles? I've mentioned some of these before. One is land use and zoning. Many of these housing types are simply not legal in entire areas of cities, entire counties, or if they are available in very small areas, so you simply can't build them. Financing is an issue in some cases, particularly for manufactured homes. It can be a bit difficult. Code issues in terms of multifamily buildings, single stairs that can make, I would say, starter home configurations more viable, and a whole array of other concerns with infrastructure. But just wanted to give a little introduction here as to where these homes are still being built and what they are. Hopefully that provides a little bit of optimism that these things can be done in the right regulatory environment. And with that, I will happily turn it over to Eric Wolverton to continue the discussion. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie. My name's Eric Wolverton. I am the CEO with Habitat for Humanity of Northern Arizona, and I've had the great pleasure of being in this role for the last 13 years. And about 4 years ago, we started thinking that we were having some major concerns about our traditional habitat model. In Flagstaff, Arizona, we are surrounded by forest land, so land is very sparse and hard to get to, which makes it obviously very expensive. We are a nice mountain town community with 4 seasons in the great state of Arizona. So again, another rarity for our geography, just making more people want to get out of 3-digit temperature range and get into 70-degree weather just makes our cost of housing very expensive. And so we wanted to really kind of look at ourselves first and foremost internally. We wanted to look at that 50-year-old habitat model, and we wanted to be able to augment that to meet the needs of emerging generations and our age-in-place generations. And how can we better utilize our scarcity of land and now our high costs of building homes to build more accommodating homes that are permanent affordable housing for folks. The picture that you can see right now is our pilot of our first 2 starter homes. That is the name of our program. And I'll go to the next slide. So we've been around for, this slide deck's just a little old. We've been around for almost 30 years now. And we build all of our homes very, very sustainable, making sure that we always hit Energy Star and then our local energy rating levels. All of our Habitat homes come furnished with a 0% interest loan. That is our one and only gift to our homeowners. There's a lot of misconceptions with Habitat homes that we give them away. We do not. These are our home ownership opportunities. And again, the only thing that we are leveraging for our partner families is that 0% interest financing. What we want to do through starter homes is we want to break the cycle of poverty through home ownership through an exacerbated equity savings. And I'll explain that in a second. And most importantly, and this was an issue with our Habitat home inventory across the country, is that we were always traditionally building one home for one family, the so-called forever home. The problem for Habitat is that as soon as that home and mortgage was paid off, that home went to market rate and ownership to that family. We were kind of creating pseudo millionaires through this process, and that was not the intent when we originally designed it, because that was not the circumstances behind our financials now. So to change that, what we want to do is we want to create permanent affordable housing. So we want to have home assets for our community that stay affordable workforce housing in perpetuity. You can go to the next slide. So the problems, I know this is happening with every municipality. I'm sure everyone on the call right now is having these issues. The cost of housing. So here in Flagstaff, as I mentioned, because we are the gateway to the Grand Canyon, we have a robust short-term rental inventory here that is taken away from our housing inventory. So now our median price home in Flagstaff is already at $775,000. Hosting Northern Arizona University, I can tell you right now, young adults have no concept that there is no mathematical formula for them to get into home ownership right now in Flagstaff. Go ahead and next slide. The other problem is our archaic affordable housing processes that we've been doing, whether it's been governmental, private, or nonprofit. You know, the biggest thing that everybody's been trying to do in terms of solving affordable housing is creating the sliding scale affordability methodology. But the major problem with this is that it actually holds families in poverty. And so as employers want to increase wages or provide bonuses, those monies are actually taken away from the people that are using this program. And so we're holding those families in poverty. Through home ownership, what we want to do is we want to graduate people out of poverty and get them closer to the middle class. Next slide. So our solution is the starter home program. So this does involve a lot of partners to make this viable. So again, our goal is creating permanently affordable housing inventory, breaking that cycle of poverty. And by doing so, what we do is with starter homes is we're providing homes with just $1,000 down payment with that 0% interest loan, and total mortgage payments with all impounds still below $1,000. As I mentioned, sustainability is a key component to these homes because Habitat will own these homes in one shape or form in perpetuity as we recycle them through families to grow their wealth. And so we want them to be as bulletproof as possible, but also knowing that simple things like our cost of electricity will always increase each and every year. So let's get some solar support on every unit so that way we can keep that cost of burden down. Next slide. So here's the math, and it's my favorite part of our starter home program. So as I mentioned, it's just $1,000 down payment. And for us, that's a huge deal in Flagstaff to be a homeowner for just that little bit. There are no closing costs. That's absorbed by Habitat and our great support of donors. Total mortgage payment, as I mentioned, stays below $1,000, with 833 of those dollars going to equity savings because of the 0% interest financing. That turns into $10,000 annually. Now, with our starter homes, our homeowners must own them for a minimum of 3 years, because now it's not just shelter, but it's investment and it's workforce retention. And then also new to Habitat is that this is a maximum homeowner length of time for the contract of 10 years. So the purchase price is $100,000 to the homeowner, but they can cash out after 3 years. It is deed restricted, only Habitat can buy the home. And so if it has been 3 years, Habitat will write a check to that homeowner for $30,000, 5 years, $50,000, 10 years, and the maximum time frame you can own your starter home, you will get a $100,000 check. Next slide. So again, what are our impacts? We want to increase the inventory of affordable workforce housing in Flagstaff. So to give you an idea, in the first slide that you saw with our first 2 pilot starter homes, we garnished so much excitement over the response that we got from applicants applying for those homes, and also the early results we were getting from those 2 families, that turned into, right now we are building a 40 starter home site in Flagstaff with 3 acres of land that was donated to us at a value of $2.75 million, and a total project value of $12.5 million, only costing us cash of $6.5 million, with the rest of it being in-kind contributions towards Habitat for Humanity to keep those costs of homes down. Again, these are very heavily deed restricted. They are single family homes. We do that on purpose. I have a personal strong belief that shared walls equal shared problems. And so why do we always put families that are struggling the most in our communities right up against each other, and sometimes right on top of each other, and then sharing those traumas and those tribulations? Let's be a little bit more dignified about the housing that we want to provide any American, and give them their space to be able to have a safe, healthy environment for them to have and not be impeded by their neighbors. But at the same time, we don't put any privacy fencing between our homes. And we do that purposefully as well too, because we want to create that old historic community feeling that if you need a cup of sugar, you can just walk 10 feet to the solution of your problem, because the solution to many problems can be our neighbor. So our goal is to be able to allow families not only to save equity through this program, but again, with the 0% financing, they're saving a tremendous amount of money on interest that they would normally pay to a bank. While homeowners are in this home, one big question is, okay, so you give these folks a whole lot of money, are they just going to frivolously spend it? So what we are providing is, instead of what is traditionally known as wraparound services for basic needs for those most impoverished families, we're not dealing with that sector of folks. We're dealing with workforce. And so what we're going to do, and we actually just learned yesterday that a grant is going to fully fund this position, allowing us to have a family support person that is going to connect financial education opportunities directly with homeowners. No longer is this going to be a case of a Habitat staff person telling folks how to save money. We're going to get actual bankers, financial advisors, and investors to work one-on-one with our homeowners, so that way when they do cash out their starter home and have that big influx of income, that they can make that money work for them almost like a second income, rather than working 2 jobs. Or they could use it for a traditional home loan on a new home for themselves, their forever home. Or because this money is not restricted, because it is their own wealth saved, they could start a small business or they could get that conversion van and decide to see the United States. It's really holistically up to them. We just want to make sure that we're educating them through their home ownership experience so that way they can make the right choices for themselves. The other thing that we love about this is the hope that we can duplicate this in other regions.
We
Sorry,
have
I'm
about a
hitting my
minute
time.
left, Eric. So if you want to
Yep.
speed her up a little, thank you.
You got it. Go ahead to the next slide. So here you can just see the renderings of a couple of our homes. We do have a 1-bedroom bump out version. Otherwise, this is a full bath, full kitchen, living, loft style bedroom, 500 square foot home. You can see the completed version on the bottom right. Next slide. Here is our 40 home development that we're currently working on, so you can get an idea of the layout and how that's all going to work. And so again, just really thrilled to be able to build to scale, going from the 2 pilot homes to 40 homes. We'll go to the next slide. And the other component to this program is going to be our sustainable maintenance and production fund. And so basically, since we're asking community to be investors when we build these homes, we want to ensure that we don't ask them for money to repair these homes. And so we have actually, when we're holding our principal payments for the homeowner to be able to cash those out, we are earning interest on those. And so the interest bearing on that will allow us to maintain these homes at $25,000 every 20 years. So that way these units never get dilapidated or go into ruin or disrepair. Next slide. We'll just kind of skip on land trust. This is just predominantly who we partner with when it comes to securing our lands for our starter home product. And then we'll go to the next slide. And I'll kind of wrap up here with our land donations. We had that very successful land donation, as I mentioned, worth almost $3 million. Really what we did was we just had a one-on-one conversation with the developer and asked them, how can we take the financial burden of you being forced to build affordable housing away from you? Let us take on that burden and do it the right way. And it ends up becoming a huge win-win tax incentive for the private developer, a big win for Habitat because now we're not incorporating those costs of land into the purchase price of the home. And then the next slide. We do work with our local community college and their home construction management students build our homes in a panelized system. So that way we can erect them in just a few days and then finish them out. The key component to this is we're building workforce housing as we're training our workforce. Next slide. And finally, so our starter homes are net zero homes. They're fully electrified homes. Like I said, we have the solar array offset, and so that way we keep the cost down. Next slide. And there's my ugly mug, which means it's my turn to turn it over to Jesse Ibarra.
Thank you very much, Eric. Hi, everybody. My name is Jesse Ibarra. I'm Chief Business Officer with Neighborhood Partnership Housing Services. Next slide, please. So who is NPHS? NPHS is a nonprofit organization, and we're based out of Southern California, mostly focused on the areas of, East Los Angeles County, San Bernardino, Riverside County. We call it the Inland Empire. We've now expanded a lot further into the south in San Diego and Imperial County, and through our multifamily arm are going basically all the way up to the Central Coast. We are really an integrated social enterprise ecosystem, and our mission is to build equitable communities through innovative housing and economic solutions that are going to enhance individual well-being, neighborhood vitality, job creation, and climate resilience. And so how do we do that? We're a HUD counseling agency and provide all of the education needed to get on that path to home ownership and also stay there and keep that home long term. We are a community development financial institution and provide things like down payment assistance programs and home rehabilitation, because it's not only about creating new opportunities, but preserving the naturally occurring and these entry-level homes that may be of older stock. And then lastly, our new development. This is, the work that, we're going to talk about today and focus in on how NPH has through the years sort of evolved our strategies to ensure that we're still meeting the market needs. If you want to go to the next slide, please. We took this journey over the last, probably now we're 12 years in, 11, 12 years in. We have participated in partnerships with cities for many years, helping them with administration of different housing resources, typically down payment assistance and home rehab and construction management around those programs. And through those relationships, we end up finding opportunities with, development on scattered site single family homes. And that's because most folks just can't do it. It's very difficult to pencil. There's no scalability. And we knew that this was an extremely important aspect to our work, and we needed to figure it out. So we started experimenting and exploring various types of alternative construction methods. And it's not showing here, but our first project was actually in partnership with the city of Chino. And we built using modular construction, I think 3 homes. And although it worked really well and it was successful, we really didn't see the cost savings we were hoping for. So we moved into the modular or manufactured product. And at the time, there was not what we have today, which is, this cross-mod sort of product, and these designations like MH Advantage through Fannie Mae or Choice Home through Freddie. And those came through a duty to serve through the Federal Housing Finance Agency. But before that, we really were limited on the financing. Once we built these and we were placing them on permanent foundation, there was still very few lenders that were willing to lend to the consumer to purchase. Now, these evolve with this duty to serve. So we have these cross-modular products, and you can see sort of the evolution over the last couple of projects, and now our Gateway demonstration project. And you'll see some of these new projects that we have in the pipeline, how it continues to evolve not only aesthetically, but energy efficiency, the climate resiliency aspects that we're including in the construction. And so I'm really excited to be able to share this with you. Next slide, please. So we're trying to, again, every step, every new home that we build, we're trying to add a new element. And it could be, we started off with your typical drought tolerant landscaping and Energy Star. And then we moved into providing solar and then battery storage with the solar. And now we're on to wildfire prepared designated homes through the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. This is a great example of a project that we built in the city of San Bernardino, where we included all of these. So this was the first wildfire prepared designated home through IBHS anywhere in the United States, but they launched in California, so I can say that we were able to get in front of a lot of folks there. But this project included a single family 1,500 square foot home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and an accessory dwelling unit that you can see on the bottom left-hand corner. That is an 800 square foot, 2-bedroom, 2-bath ADU. Both of these are construction or manufactured, and all the construction was done in a factory. We sourced from multiple factories, and we felt like this was the best way to do it for multiple reasons, and I'll get into that shortly. We even decided to become a manufactured housing dealer to help other developers in our region and even individual homeowners access this. And the reason why we became a dealer is we believe in platforms, and the reason why we believe in platforms is because it's a way to sort of connect buyers and consumers, but also consolidate the supply chain and pass those savings on to the consumer. So as a dealer, we're able to control the markup that is being charged when we sell these homes. So if we're working with a nonprofit or a low-income homeowner, we're able to pass off these savings to them when they purchase these. And obviously, it's a huge benefit to us as a developer to be able to source those at wholesale, right? And so you can see we're not sacrificing on these manufactured homes any type of quality or design. And as a matter of fact, I feel these are built much better than your on-site stick built. I like to use the example: would you rather have your car built out in a dirt field or in a factory? factory, and most folks would say they prefer the factory. And for, again, many reasons we can get into later, but you can see the aesthetics here on the interior. This is, believe it or not, already an outdated unit. So our new units are even more beautiful. And if you have, entirely new design features that really meet the needs and also the wants of the today's consumer. Next slide, please. And again, this is all about building homes that rise to meet the wellness of families. Again, this included solar. This is EV ready. We have a battery storage unit. This included things like indoor air quality monitors and universal design standards. This was wildfire prepared, and this is also on a community land trust, so it will be affordable for essentially in perpetuity. We typically have a 99-year ground lease that's offered to the purchasers of these units. Next slide, please. And now moving on to the future. So I wanted to give you an example of what it looks like to partner with a municipality or jurisdiction and what can be done to help make these homes affordable. Now, although we've been seeing up to 30% cost savings in construction, unfortunately, costs keep going up. And it's still becoming very difficult. What used to cost us, around $350,000 to build with the manufactured product has increased substantially, and we're, depending on the features that we're including, could be up to $500,000, where it's still not affordable to folks. So there is still subsidy that needs to go into some of these homes, and we have multiple ways we do that. So I'm going to give you two examples of how we're tackling these issues. So one of them here with this example is a hillside project in San Bernardino. The city has donated these 3 lots to NPHS. We were going to build 3 single-family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes using the manufactured product. The city has provided us with $744,000 of home partnership funding, and that is $135,000 to as a grant to NPHS to subsidize the construction cost, because we are limited to a 95% of the area median home value sales price, and then which doesn't get us to the full cost of the total construction on all 3. And so they provided us with that fund, and then also up to $203,000 per unit as subsidy to the borrowers. And then NPHS is providing up to $100,000 on top of that to bridge that gap. So, a home buyer is going to essentially have a first loan amount of $250,000 to $260,000. They're going to bring in 3% of their funding, and then they're going to get up to $300,000 in layered subsidy from both the city and NPHS. So that's the way we've been able to, handle this and really still deliver a product that's affordable, to the low and moderate income consumers. We also, on this particular project, got CPF funding. CPF is community project funding, and this is congressional funds that we receive to activate projects in our region. And so we use the funding and recycle it. Essentially, we recycle that $1 million over and over again. The way that these funds typically work when we work with the municipality is that they're reimbursable. So we still need private capital to fund and pay for invoices that are sent to us by our contractors and C-47s. And then we then get reimbursed and pay ourselves back through that. And then, again, some of these funds are tied up in a transaction for a longer period of time. We can recapture those funds in the future. So like, for example, the city's $200,000 will be recaptured at some point, and then they'll have to find a new buyer to then provide that. And as you know, income is not keeping up with the housing prices, and so it will be more costly in the future for the municipality to do this. So that's why we have an additional model that I'll share for the next project if you want to keep going. And these are some of the photos of this hillside project of what these homes will look like. Again, beautifully designed. They will be wildfire prepared. They'll include solar and battery storage, just like our other units. And again, design-wise, I think they're getting more and more beautiful every project. Next slide, please. So this is a different model. This is a community land trust model. We partnered with the city of Palm Springs. They donated 3 parcels to NPHS. We were utilizing SB9 to lot split every parcel. So we'll be able to build 6 homes out of these 3 parcels. And they provided us with $2.8 million of general fund money. This is going to be a little different, where the 2.8 is a grant, and it essentially subsidizes the entire project for it's lifetime. So they will not have to recapture any dollars. They will not have to find another buyer in the future. They do not even need to really worry about monitoring this in terms of the future transaction because it's on a community land trust. And NPHS, as a nonprofit, serves as the community land trust. So we retain ownership of the land. We sell the improvements, which are the homes. We sell them at a price that is affordable to a low-income household. So these homes will be sold at about $170,000 to $200,000 each. And we tie the affordability to AMI, the area median income. So as area median income increases, so does their appreciation, and they also get to keep any equity that they've built through paying down the mortgage. And so this is extremely powerful tool, I think, for municipalities, moving forward. And I think there's just some additional education that needs to happen because if you think about it, 2.8 sounds like a big number, but they no longer ever have to subsidize this project ever again. So instead of looking at subsidizing an individual home buyer, they're subsidizing a project that then in perpetuity becomes affordable. They have the benefit of having NPHS. NPHS in the city have the regulatory agreement. And NPHS is preserving that affordability by being the steward of this land and ensuring all future transactions are in accordance with these restrictive covenants. And so we're helping these home buyers make sure that they're in compliance as they sell these properties and making sure they go into the hands of another low-income household, or if they choose to keep it and pass it down to family members or whoever they'd like, they're able to do that as well. But this is a new tool that I think we haven't been utilizing enough, and I think it's probably because just the cities and others just don't know how to work it. I think that this is a value add. We're propositioning it as a value add, and they're now starting to come around. So this is, I think, just the beginning of a lot more of the way we start doing construction and subsidizing properties, and especially for sale. Obviously, people ask, well, how, I'm capped on equity or you're not capped on equity, you're capped on your appreciation. There's not an equity share component per se with the city or but you are passing some of that along to the buyers. This is in Riverside County, and I did an analysis of what the AMI has increased in the last decade, and it's been about 34% in the last decade. So if that continues on, that's still 34% an appreciation plus again the equity that they've built through paying down the mortgage. So I think that this is a great entry level home and a way to get in your foot in the door and build that. And if you want to again sell in the future, you can do that, collect what you made, and then go buy another home. So
We have about a minute left, Jesse.
okay, let's keep going. And I just want to show some pretty pictures. And then it's really that's all that's left here. So this is some of the photos that of the homes that are going to be built. You can see we tried to give it a mid-century design. We're still fighting with folks and planning on the garages and the sloped roofs, but we'll see. We really love this design and hope we can get most of it. These are again wildfire prepared, solar, battery storage, you name it. Continue on, please. I don't know. And there's another beautiful photo of what these homes will look like if it has a single car garage and they don't allow us to do the sloped or flat roofs. They'll both be pitched. And I think that's it. If I don't know that there's any slides. Oh, our Shandon Hill project. Again, we're going to be doing more of the same here on this. These are sites that we actually bought from a local habitat in San Bernardino, and we'll be activating these and doing the same one. Will be on it'll be a single home with ADUs, and we're doing is utilizing the CPF funding and essentially recycling it to go one by one. So this has no city funding at the moment. And so we're just utilizing whatever private dollars we can get and the existing dollars that we got from the CPF funding to activate these lots, and then just keep recycling as we go. Continue on. I don't know if there's any more slides. Wildfire prepared designation. This just gives you some insight on what that looks like and the features. I won't get into that. We can save that for maybe Q&A. And some of the stuff we're working on wildfires, we're not going to get into that for time purposes, and we can discuss. So my name is again Jesse Ibarra. Here's my contact information, and look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Charlie, Eric, and Jesse. I know I learned a lot in just a short amount of time. I also know that this wouldn't be a real webinar if we hadn't gone a little bit over time. So we're a little behind where we thought we'd be, but I'm really excited to share some audience questions with you all. Just a quick reminder for everybody, my name is Adam Briones. I'm a board member of the Casita Coalition and someone who really deeply believes that we here in California, where I'm based, as well as the broader United States, really need starter homes if we're really going to answer the steep challenges we face in the future around our housing crisis that we see nationally and at the state level. So let's see, before I start, go to questions, I do just want to give a big thank you, obviously, to our great panelists. I also want to say thank you to Adriana, Celeste, and the great Casita staff who put this on. And I also want to say a big thank you to Arnold Ventures, who obviously provided the funding for this event. So without further ado, Charlie, I see you stole some of my thunder and you answered the question in the chat. But for anyone who hasn't seen it in the Q&A box, would actually love for you to expand on Caleb's question. And I'll just sum it up as saying, why have condos gone out of favor? You mentioned it's a little bigger than just construction defect. Would love for you to expand on that a little.
Yeah, I offered a couple other possibilities there, which I think align a little better with the data, although this is far from a comprehensive answer, and there's a lot of difference of opinion on this. I've heard a lot of competing explanations advanced. I think one that's been a little overlooked, maybe because it's such a major factor, is what I mentioned in the answer is simply tighter lending standards, which have made qualifying for lower income, middle income buyers more difficult since the late 2000s. Those were put in place as a result of the recession. And as a result, it simply became more difficult to qualify for mortgages sort of really in the price range that I was mentioning before for loans of $250,000, $300,000. And that adversely affected many of the condo options that were being built before then, which were typically within that price range. I think that's one of the factors that explains why they were down really across the board, regardless of what the local condo defect laws might have been, state by state. You didn't really see that as a correlation, nor did those laws really change in a meaningful way that correlated with the downturn in condo construction. Just to that, I would add, I don't have as much data for this, but there's been some negative publicity. There was the condo collapse in Florida a few years ago, which made national news. There have been recently rapid increases, unrestrained increases in HOA fees and condo fees. I think there's been a question of how reliable the record keeping and accounting has been for some of these condominiums, and people have been a little shy to invest in them, given the uncertainty and the lack of real accountability behind these fees that maybe have turned some market interest away from them. Just two possible factors. There are other things. The other presenters may have some other ideas, but I think those are some unique, like post-2010 factors.
Yeah, thanks for that one, Charlie. And I think like many big problems, I think there's a lot going into it. So I really appreciate that response there. Eric, would love to turn over to you. And the thing that I wanted to ask you that popped up while you were presenting is, you talked a lot about partnerships. When it comes to partnerships, from your perspective, what can local governments, nonprofits, and community organizations do to be better partners in the work that you do? Where do you see opportunities? Where are some big challenges? Love to get your perspective on that. Oh, and you're on mute there, Eric.
Thank you for that. I know 3 years ago, the City of Flagstaff Council and Mayor declared a housing emergency for Flagstaff. That really helped our work. So city staff could, take our applications and put them at the top of the pile and things like that. But more importantly, on the financial end of things, when it comes to municipalities, whether it's a state, whether it's a county or a local municipality, really, it's about looking at policy. So I love how Jesse also works with land trusts. That's what we do too. So we are trying really hard to work with municipalities to help encourage them to create those policies. Another perfect policy that the City of Flagstaff has that we want others to do is what they call their affordable housing incentive policy. And basically, Arizona is a non-gift clause state, meaning that they can't gift anything to anyone. To circumvent this, what the city of Flagstaff does is take general fund dollars, put it into their incentive policy, and then that policy pays for the permitting fees. Just with my 40 homes, that saved us over almost $750,000 in permitting fees. So trying to exacerbate and move our government agencies to incorporate these kind of things is vastly important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the big topics in housing policy these days is what can we be doing on the permitting and land use reform side. So I think that makes a ton of sense. And actually just got a question from Lisa. Let's see, Lisa said for Eric and Jesse, and maybe Jesse, we could have you go first. Have you looked into SIPs, SIPs for your builds, particularly metal framed SIPs, which are mold, mildew, fire, and termite resistant? So I'll hand it over to you, Jesse, then maybe Eric.
Yeah, we have. And we every day I get somebody with a new and improved or, some interesting products. As a matter of fact, we've got some folks willing to donate a SIP kit to us to test out, which we are interested in doing. But and again, we've experimented. There's always some new shiny object, but we feel where we're the furthest ahead with the manufactured product, meaning the manufactured products is with the duty to serve now, we have the financing. We know in our region, for example, they're built to a federal code, and we don't even use modular for this reason. They fall under HCD's jurisdiction, so our state housing department's jurisdiction, and under Title 25 rather than Title 24. So the local jurisdictions are limited on what they can tell us we can and can't do. They cannot discriminate against this product. Whereas with the modular product, we are bound to, a lot more, I guess, discretionary approvals through the local jurisdictions, and thus makes it a little bit more difficult. So we're sticking with the manufactured, but we are testing these types, and I mean, if it makes sense. So the property I didn't get involved in Shandon Hills that we purchased from Habitat, we may activate one of those sites as one of these test projects for something new like that. But I think we found it, right? I think that we're well on our way. And as a matter of fact, we're working on legislation to like the biggest hurdle that we have with it is that we can't go vertical. And we're also limited on our foundation types. We can't put them on a slab foundation because they're required to have a steel chassis, and that steel chassis is increasing the cost, and it also makes it difficult for vertical and for a slab foundation. So if we can get that requirement removed and the definition of what a manufactured home is revised by HUD, then we will have access to any type of foundation system and also be able to go vertical. And I think that solves the issue. So we're sticking with what we have here, but we're going to continue to see how things progress on the other side.
Awesome. Eric, would you have anything to add to that one?
Yeah, just real briefly, I totally agree with Jesse. My phone is ringing off the hook with innovative housing opportunities. And we look at every single one, and I know Jesse does the same thing, and weighs the pros and cons, because these are emerging technologies. We don't know how great they are yet. But to give you an idea on where we did participate in something like this with our 40 homes, our local CMU block manufacturer actually has a carbon sequester that will pull carbon from the air and permanently sequester that into the cement block of our foundations. And so we've been using that type of technology. And then obviously, and I know Jesse's the expert on it, everything right now is about firewise, right? Especially in California, but even here in Arizona, when we're surrounded with ponderosa pines, that's the big ticket item. I know for myself, my personal home insurance tripled just in the last 2 years.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for that one, Eric. Charlie, want to go back to you, and I'm going to give you a choice of questions. Option A is policy. What will it take to build starter homes again at scale, let's say nationally? Or option B, what is the cost difference between manufactured versus stick-built housing? You can pick either, whichever you feel good about.
Oh, well, both good questions. Maybe I'll go with the first one, although that's kind of a big open-ended one. I mean, a lot of what we do at Mercatus is trying to remove the obstacles to building starter homes at scale. And the area that we focused on for reform is the state level. It's getting the state back involved and removing the barriers that localities have been steadily setting up really the last 100 years, believe it or not. It's been almost 100 years since the Euclid versus Ambler decision, which legitimized zoning back in 1926. And the tendency has been to ratchet up restrictions more and more over time. You know, it's for every one step you get forward, there's two steps back, it seems like. And we made it very difficult to build lower cost housing, whether that's because of lot size mandates, building code changes, parking requirements, regulatory requirements, impact fees. There is a whole universe of obstacles standing in the way, and even trying to identify them, sort them out, figure out which is the most significant obstacle takes a lot of time, speaking with a lot of different people. So I would say that's going to be a big part of it. There has to be, ground up enthusiasm for these, but there also has to be top-down movement from state houses, from governors to address some of these barriers and to start pushing back on this. And we've actually seen that the last 3 years. I guess giving a very high level overview, but 33 states, I think, passed over 120 generally pro-housing bills. And some of these bills are starting to take on the titles of the Starter Home Act that are actually getting incorporated into bill titles, which are expressly designed at bringing back the construction of modestly sized homes on small lots that are affordable to most Americans. This is sort of becoming a direct policy goal. We're realizing it. And that's part of it. You have to diagnose the problem, recognize that it exists before addressing it. So, of course, cities can do a lot. There's a lot they can do on their own, towns and cities and counties, but that's the approach we're taking. We're going to stick at it, and hopefully we'll start to see some changes in coming years on the production front.
That's awesome. Thank you for that, Charlie. And we used to build these homes. We can do it again. Unlike many of our other big problems, this one feels like it should be solvable.
Yes, and I was hoping to show you they can still be built. Occasionally,
Yeah.
I still hear, oh, developers don't want to build these homes. There's not enough money in them, or there's no way they can be feasibly built these days. And obviously, from Eric and Jesse, you've heard today that is not true. From some of the slides I've shown, absolutely not true. There are creative ways to do this. There are simple regulatory ways to do this. So it's about clearing those obstacles out of the way and letting the market and creative thinking work.
Absolutely. And so we're actually coming up on time. So I want to ask one quick question. Jesse, quickly, I'm going to throw to you. Gut sense, what is the difference in cost between manufactured and modular? I'm sorry, between stick-built and manufactured housing?
It depends on where you're at, but what
Gut
we've
sense,
seen
real
is,
quick.
yeah, 30% for us. We're seeing
There
a
you go.
30% cost difference.
Awesome. And Caleb has asked a couple good questions. Want to make sure he didn't get left out. And then even more lightning round. What's one thing you hope folks take away from this webinar today? If they don't remember anything else, what's one thing you hope they remember? Let's start with you, Eric, then go Charlie, then Jesse.
These are the solutions that need to happen. That we will not be able to have our basic services in any of our communities met because unfortunately people will be priced out of communities. And so I would say this is our time. People are feeling the workforce pinch, and it is our opportunity to build a better product for the people that want to get in home ownership.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Eric. Charlie, 10, 15 seconds. What do you want them to take away?
Yeah, I'm going to take a page from another organization, AI, and just say lot sizes, lot sizes, lot sizes. Pay attention to that. I tried to leave them in all the pictures. That's a big part of it. You can't control labor necessarily, can't control the cost of materials, but you sure can control what people are allowed to build upon. So look at that factor. I think major policy point for reform. There's a lot else into it, but if that's a takeaway, if you need one takeaway, that's what I'm going with.
Love it. Jesse, close us out. What's one takeaway for you?
Work together, and it can be done.
There we go. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm going to hand it back to Adriana and Celeste to close us out.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. A huge thank you to Charlie, Eric, and Jesse for joining us today as panelists and sharing your insights. Thank you to our board member, Adam Briones, for moderating this important conversation about starter homes for stronger communities. And many thanks to all of our attendees. Apologies if we didn't get to your questions, but we really appreciate your engagement, your ideas, and all the questions you submitted. I want to thank our major funders and our webinar sponsor, Arnold Ventures, as well as our premier members for their support of Casita Coalition, which helps us present these free webinars for all. We invite other ADU and middle housing professionals, community-based organizations, homeowners, and housing advocates to add your voice to the conversation and stay involved by becoming a member of Casita Coalition at casitacoalition.org. In addition, check out our Casita Academy, where we offer Friday afternoon workshops and 4-week courses that cover everything you need to know about building an ADU. Our website has a number of resources, including our past webinars and guidebooks about middle housing and ADUs for professionals and homeowners. Find more resources on our website at casitacoalition.org. And we'll see you at our next webinar. Thank you, everyone.